Greetings, aliens of the archive. I have my corporate reverse inner corporate parody worship mug full of, as promised, coffee. My last artificial plastic coffee pod. Um, Need to do a resupply out here in my luxurious uh, heirloom cottage. Bingus bonkus. Before we get started, I've come across something, a little artifact, a little sign of the times, um, that just really hammers home for me how fucking dystopian this all is. Like the whole consumerist culture, that we've reached the point of parody, of self parody. We've reached the point where our real existence cannot be made fun of because it is already so fucking stupid, that it looks like previous generations' attempts to make fun of a dystopian future. We're already there. So this is a package of Denshan Tangshan, which I'm just going to go ahead and Tangshan translate. Oops. Tangshan translate to English. Contextperverso.net. Yeah, sure. The view of the Kangshan Mountains, Mount Kangshan. So it's not like, it doesn't mean any, it's the mountain. That's what it means. It's the name of some mountains. Kangshan knives. Ooh. Which is our Chinese. I kind of, just sort of the styling of the characters here kind of looks like it's being a bit cheeky. These look more like the sort of Japanese penmanship sort of strokes you see in Japanese writing. To me, maybe this is just me being a fucking weeb and stuff. But anyway, these fall into that amazing cultural trope of like, mysterious foreign oriental knives. Oh my gosh. Oh, the ancient ways of their blades craftsmanship. They translated their legacy of building weapons into making the kitchen knives. Oh yeah. Sharp like katana. Quiet like wind. Rushing like water. Solid as stone. In your kitchen. But that obviously is not what I'm pointing to here specifically, because we've all seen that shit before. It's like a samurai sword for your kitchen. Oh my gosh. It can cut a melon. It's the sharpness warning advertisement. Warning advertisement. It sounds wrong, but that's what it is. The caution for be careful unpacking like pre-sharpened knives. Like they're sharp knives. You don't need to sharpen them because no one knows how to sharpen their knives anymore. It's like a mysterious. You get a knife, and then you cut with it, and it just gets increasingly difficult to cut stuff, and use the serrated edge for tomatoes, because why would you be expected to just have a sharp chef knife in your kitchen if you're not some sort of professional home cook or something, at the very least. But anyway, it has a warning for unpacking sharp knives. And this is the parody that like consumerism, capitalism, advertisement has literally been crammed into every possible corner that it has been. This computer and my phone, which are right next to me, are listening to my conversation. And dollars to dock nuts, I'm gonna get advertisements for knives after talking about this. I'm gonna get advertisements for fancy Oriental. Oh, how do they make them so sharp? Knives. I We've all had stories like this. We all have stories like this. My two big ones that I go to are once I broke up with my partner who I was living with, and I moved back home. And that week, despite not having posted about it publicly at all, that week, like I started seeing ads for looking for a new place, just because it like geo-tracked me that I was no longer spending time at home and started sending me ads for apartments. That was upsetting. Slightly more humorous is one time I asked my friend if they'd seen that Hello Fresh ad with that ironically is a advertisement for food starring a woman who looks like she's just been rescued from a concentration camp. Like she's so skeletal and lanky, and she does not look well fed. It's some marketing person made some sort of weird decision about that. I'm sure to maybe to push in some sort of like hyper real way the health of it. Like you could look like a normal person, but then it would just be a normal person. What if it was like a person whose face was really thin and whose body was like long and insubstantial, but like they were smiling and had like a British accent. So like they're smart and they're happy, and also they're kind of weirdly skinny. I guess I'll become weirdly skinny if I eat this stupid food out of a fucking paper bag that comes in the mail. Don't eat food out of the mail. Don't eat food out of the mail. But anyway, this warning: you're about to handle sharp knives. Be careful, because not that you're so dumb that you don't know to be careful around knives, although you might be. It might be the first time you've handled a knife this sharp in a long time, as I was saying earlier. Warning. Oh, but because the corporation, like if you do out of your own stupidity or just accidentally, cut yourself, or if the packaging is fucked up, right? Which is it's perfectly safe. You could sue the company. Like they don't care about your health, which I think is part of the reason why it was so easy for some freak to make the decision to use the warning space to advertise knives that you've probably, if you're considering the warning, have already bought. Like if this is a big window, I've already unboxed it. It's not a knife unboxing, but this is a big window. You can see all the knives. You can see that they're all like, one solid steel piece each. There's no handle. All these pictures here. I mean, there are handles, but they're shaped out of the steel itself, so there's no tang. I don't know if I buy that. I think the handle's probably made out of cheaper metal, and it's just fused in a way that it looks like it's all one piece. This is not a traditional way of making knives, I presume, because it's a waste of so much extra metal. But anyway, the warning. The long anticipated warning. Warning! The package in front of you contains excellent cutlery. Every Changshan knife has been hand sharpened to an extremely sharp razor's edge by expert bladesmiths. Be careful unboxing these knives. It is time to enjoy the view. Your new knives. Wait. It is the time to enjoy your new knives cutting food, not your precious hands. Please stay safe and know we know you are going to love your handcrafted Changshan knives. Made in China. I gotta be right back. Good thing I'm not wasting anybody's fucking time here. Taking breaks and shit. So yeah, like I literally like, whoa, hey, watch out! These knives are so good, it's scary. Whoa, hey, ho. These things were made by experts, bro. Watch out. Like, fucking, ludicrous. It's like stop signs that are like complimenting you on how fast your car could go. You know. The carrot, right? The stick of advertisement being the insecurity that this entire world fosters in people. The idea that maybe a slightly sharper razor will give you a slightly cleaner face. I don't know why I thought of that particular example. And perhaps that'll make people love you, like really honestly, like not just say that they do because it's polite and they have to for their own survival, form alliances that involve you, but maybe they'll actually just love you, wanting nothing in return except your own love. That's the stick. And then the carrot is, wow, you be careful now because you've made such a good choice. What is this? Oh, looks like you've beaten me. Oh, the shuckster who gives you an easy win. Oh, wow, yeah. That old South Park gag for the Pokemon episode where the Japanese executives are, as soon as they're challenged on what their evil plans are, they start talking about how Americans have such big penises. Oh, or better yet, the South Park episode where Cartman becomes a TV shopping channel jewelry reseller. He's always telling people like, oh man, you're really fucking me buying this jewelry. Ah, damn it. I'm selling it for so low. And then he goes to stock up on jewelry from the Asian. What? Can't help it. It keeps coming back to that, huh? Uh-oh. The Asian run jewelry store, and they go, oh, you like fucking Asian ladies? You fuck me. You buy this? I sell it so cheap. Oh no. The carrot. Find a shot from over here. Oh, I am. I am the shot when I'm over here. Okay, shit. Don't mind me. That's just I usually do I hide users message? Can I just delete because their name is offensive to me? Anyway, I usually wash my hands twice whenever I need to wash my hands. Wash them twice, which is probably fine, right? Anyway, the stick and the carrot. One last piece of upkeep before I continue. I make bread. My bread. I've buttered Vegemite dip. Oh my gosh. It's a big, big spam day. Big spam day. I used this proofing bowl. It was very air permeable and just a lot of flour by accident. So it's not a very tight crumb. Very tight. Look at that. And somehow not enough salt. And I felt like I was putting a lot of salt on. Very cakey, very springy. I just let it rise overnight. So I kind of do a no knead thing, but I also kneaded it quite a lot. So I suppose that makes sense. Overworked it. Really. Not bad. It's what is it? 3.5 Ronkin. Not great, not terrible. So we're here today to discuss our good friend Phil. I've actually got to bring it back up because, yeah, it looks like that window's been closed. It's probably for the best. I'll bring it back up. And today, having established like the predicament. Hey, that war happened. That's crazy, right? I didn't really think that was going to happen. I thought people were going to be smarter than that and like back down as needed. But no. So that's bad. Okay, let's find this. This topic of conversation. Elon Musk killed those monkeys. That's great news. Here we go. Okay. Good old Phil. Did I call him Jeff earlier by accident, perhaps? No, I'm pretty sure I know his name is Phil. Phil, good old Phil. I am just a guy who's a philosopher for fun. And my rich girlfriend wants that to be my life. But I have this nagging doubt in me that just says that's not okay. Any advice? And the left streams, what, you got a problem just as your woman makes more money than you fucking chauvinist pig? And the center and the right streams, what, you don't have a fucking job, you lazy bum? Get a fucking job, you worthless piece of shit. Your ethics don't matter. Really, like, crackery crust. Dense. So having established a poor old Phil, not gonna do that. Having established a poor old Phil is dead center in a very specific cultural no man's land and is being shelled from both sides. Now I think it's a great opportunity to dig into what either side offers in terms of evac, in terms of the ropes they are willing to throw. I think like this seems like it's a mixed metaphor, but it's kind of sort of on purpose, because a rope is what you throw to somebody who is drowning off the side of a ship. Throw them a rope, pull them up. If they're down a pit, when someone's in no man's land, surrounded by mud, blood, barbed wire, and dead horses, throwing them a rope isn't super helpful. And so I think throwing this poor man a rope is precisely the metaphor that these advice givers deserve. And as you can see from the title, Aliens of the Archive, a bunch of people recommend you go to therapy. Let's see. So one thing I didn't get into yesterday is that there's actually 3 sources of comments for me to get into here. There's the comments under Sean's retweet, which I was reading from for a slightly sympathetic, but very like culturally charged, like knowingly culturally charged take on it, which had stuff like, I don't know, sounds like society makes him sad. He has my sympathies. And people being like, sounds kind of low-key incel shit, dude, because there's some sort of like nebulous, implicit disrespect for women implied in his argument, which he never says at all. But like the fact that he's kind of uncomfortable with a situation that has to do with the woman, that happens to involve a woman, seems like his comfort's probably stemming from some low-key incel shit. I hope I'm not doing a straw man here, because I am slightly rephrasing whatever that guy RB, I think it was. I am rephrasing his argument slightly, but I don't think I'm warping it that much. I think I'm just rephrasing it, and it just illustrates its absurdity. Like, what's the strongest? I can't think of how to phrase that particular take in, like, the strongest, most generous way to then attack that. To say that this guy who clearly fucks, this guy who is clearly in a long-term and serious relationship, that there's like the whiff of incel-dom about him. despite the fact that like his problem is about, his problem is specifically about his relationship with his partner and his own insecurities within it. Is having insecurities incel shit? like what? Dude believes that like women are into men who look good. Women are into men who have money. And that, and that's like noticing that, believing that, being aware of that dimension of reality enough to let it fuel your insecurities. Like, even that's like low-key incel shit. Like, sorry, but that's like the truth. As I said yesterday, I'm going to repeat myself a bit today, just to kind of, refresh myself, frankly. I think it's fun. Like, as I said, like, that's true. Like, there are women who perform exactly what the commenters do on the other side, right? So that was Sean's comment section. And then there were the comments directly under the Reddit archive post, which were much more, still extremely culturally charged, but kind of blind to it in the way that, the privilege of the mainstream has to not recognize their own. One second, I think I just got a work email. I just need to say yes, thank you to something. Something has slightly changed, and it makes me the tiniest bit uncomfortable. And again, I have no problem with just being a bad performer. That's what this is. Just being a lazy, unengaging performer because nobody watches, which is so awesome. That's exactly what I want. What did I say one time? I said one time to a friend, I make music as the Shrews, Bandcamp. I come up first, not the one from California. Fuck those guys. Fuck that lazy fucking band. The fucking Californian Shrews. Fuck them. They're fine. They're fine. They just kind of, sprung up and were the Shrews for a little while and then stopped being the Shrews and, posted be right back on their Facebook page before disappearing entirely. I'm the Shrews. And we were just talking about like, oh, I want it released, but I don't want anyone to find it. I don't want to advertise it. I mentioned to a couple people like when I finished a new album, and people check it out, and be like, hey, it's cool that you did something. It's like in the same way they're like, oh, I went for a walk today and I saw these two dogs in the park, and they were friends. Like different people were walking them, and then they saw each other, and they got really excited, and then the people recognized each other, and they came over, and they were all friends. People go, oh, that's nice. Which is like, I kind of think what most things should be, like that. Just describing that completely imaginary, fake little scene of just seeing some people and animals be happy. There's no way to monetize that, but that's the purest slice of happiness I'll encounter today if things don't go the way I'm hoping they do. I'm hoping I might be able to get at some unproductive slices of little happiness regardless. Like along that same vein, I'm hoping I can pull that together. I'm hopeful. But you can't monetize those moments. And that means definitionally in our current system, they're worthless. This will tie back into what we're talking about with Phil. But anyway, that's my music. And a friend had said to me, you'd be happiest if your music were Easter eggs, like on an old Flash cartoon. Specifically thinking as we always do when we mention these things. Homestar Runner, homestarrunner.com. The GOAT. I hate saying that, but yeah, if I could release all of my music as a well-hidden Easter egg on a popular website, like the Gorillaz website, back around the Demon Days phase, that was a blast. Or Homestar Runner, not as sort of the core art centerpiece, but as a sort of ancillary material that makes the whole greater than the sum of its parts. That's what I wish my music could really be. That's one of the things that like irks me about how these live streams are set up, or not set up rather, that I can't like pipe my own music in. I'd have to stop and then edit it. I can't just kind of have it playing while I ramble. I'm just listening to some random ambient stuff right now for my own sake. But I wish it could soundtrack the videos. I've done that a few times when I've just kind of had a song or a few songs playing underneath me talking. And I think it holds everything together pretty well. And I wish I could listen to it live and have it be in the video because that stuff, it drives the conversation as much as a conversational partner does. This whole time, I've been listening to like some really sad, sort of gentle piano and saxophone stuff. While I'm kind of, lamenting this whole ordeal of life, that happiness isn't profitable. I don't know. That sounds like some incel shit to me, man. So I have those two content mines, but I also have the comments under the post, which Sean retweeted, which, how'd it go again? And again, I need to stress. I can't stress enough. I don't care. And I mean, it sounds a bit like, someone who doth protest too much. But I'm shouting my love language from the rooftops, which is that, like, normally I would a lot. It would bug me. And it's part of this whole process is, letting go of those things. Just a moment. I'm gonna get a candle here. I'm gonna do a cool light thing. That's just the way the world is, man. You have to make appointments. You have to keep a schedule. You need to be productive. You can't just have a 2 to 4 hour therapy session of someone's time, like randomly, maybe twice a week, some weeks, and then not off for 3 weeks, and then like 4 in a row. You just can't do it. You can't just get up and go and just like take a phone call for like that's before I get into therapy for like wider reasons. Like, yo, how much does it suck to be the therapist's office? Like, it's still in the waiting room in the lobby and like not need to pee quite yet. You know what I mean? You know exactly what I'm fucking talking about. When you're like, ooh, I'm going to need to pee. But if I try to force myself to pee right now, like I'm still gonna have to pee later because it's just there's not enough ready. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And it sucks so much because, right? Your brain, it's too addled with all of your woes and your failings, which are brought all bubbling up to the surface, and you're getting ready to like juggle them, be like, maybe I can talk about like 25% of this one, ooh, and like just mention this only a little bit, like 8%, and then shit, I lost. What's 25 plus 8? It's like 32 or something. It's shit, or no, that's not right. And you're like, damn it. Then how much of that percentage of time of the hour, which is already going to be spent kind of sitting down and being like, oh yeah, and how's your week? Oh, good. Do I ask? I don't really ask. That's kind of your business. Oh yeah, But so what we talked about last week, the fucking stupid handouts you gave me, which were fucking dumb. What about the? Well, I kind of wanted to talk about. Oh no, how much more time now am I going to go and commit to taking a fucking leak? Shit. I paid for your time to heal me, and now I'm going to take a chunk out of my time that I've paid for you to sit here and just earn like $15 from 15 of my dollars while I'm taking a leak? That feels bad, and you have to care about it. Like, if you don't have to care about that, then you're in therapy for like different reasons than the most of us. You're in therapy for perhaps reasons closer to the reasons that Phil is in therapy. Sorry, that people recommend Phil go to therapy. That Phil would be in therapy for if he chose to follow people's advice to go into therapy. But before we get to that, let's just dig a little bit more into the other side of things. Into the you need to get a job / this is already working sort of sense. Like hyonk at hard-boiled legs. Gross. Just replying back. And again, it's funny to see audiences make up their own minds about who they're addressing. Namely, in that a lot of the people in the Twitter thread under the relationships.txt, which has posted a screenshot of the Reddit post, a lot of people are replying as if they are talking to Phil, as if this is a forum on which Phil would receive notifications. If she doesn't care and likes that doing what makes passionate, and also don't have to work a stupid 9 to 5, why are complaining? What's the problem? Why are you choosing to be insecure? I haven't read this chunk yet, but I'm going to read it. This seems pretty good. Sarah Andipity. That's pretty okay. At Sarah Andipity. Sarah Ann says, I'd be more sympathetic to the dynamic of huge earning difference in a relationship if he hadn't entirely based his choices on thinking, well, my family is rich, so I can do whatever I want. Why? Again, I think, and this is the common thread, that like putting people in these positions as rational actors is unfortunately sometimes giving people too much credit, or perhaps more importantly, giving the influence the system has over people's decisions not enough credit. Can't see the candle. It's fucking day. Of course you can't see a fucking candle flame. You know, like once you're rich, when in Rome, you know? Like, I think the idea that you should prepare for financial catastrophe during periods of financial security, like, it does make sense in a sort of, you know, primordial hunter-gatherer kind of way. Like, what do you do with resources that you have accumulated in the wet season or you know, spring and summer and fall? Well, you put some of them away because winter is going to come. But that's the thing about financial systems, right? Why have we all subscribed to a financial system that has unpredictable and life-threatening winters? This has only now popped into my mind, so I don't know if it's a useful critique or analysis or even makes sense. But one thing that's kind of, you know, very, very weird to me about, but also obviously very cool, about the world in which A Song of Ice and Fire takes place, Game of Thrones. I don't even know what the planet's called, about whether it even functions as a planet. You know, the opening title cards of the opening sequence of the HBO show kind of expands this out more than I think the books, the story merely existing as books do, because of the way it kind of shows the whole, everywhere where the action takes place on like a reverse sort of heliocentric, I forget what the exact word for it, but it shows sort of the constellations and stellar bodies moving, but enclosed by the world. Like their globe, their model, the edges of the globe curve up instead of curving down and away. So the weirdest thing, of course, is the uneven seasons. And the question of if this fictional plane of existence, if this fantasy world is indeed a planet, how does that function astronomically? And the correct answer to that is, of course, shut up. The correct answer is, of course, that's not really the point of this kind of story. The threat of inevitable but unpredictable winters is such a useful storytelling device. It is such a specific and bold and unique sort of stylistic thing, which is so essential to the world building and even the characterization, the political organization of so much of that world, that to start questioning, yeah, but why, is like to miss the point of the fact that it's a story. I think that happens a lot when you spend too much time thinking about a fantasy world without giving it due credit for being a fantasy world. This is something that happened, complete tangent. This is something that happened in World of Warcraft when they introduced the one of the new races, the one that came from Draenor, the orc planet. Are they called the Draenei? Draenei? Which was kind of weird that there was like two people, two species of thing living on the same planet, and one of them got named after the planet, and then the other one was just named the Orcs. Were they not like originally from there too? Might be part of the lore, but it's like, if we had two species living on Earth and we called one of them the Earthers and the other one like the Flimflams or something, like, why? They're from Earth too, right? Anyway, they introduced these guys from this other planet, and they arrived in the World of Warcraft world named Azeroth, which is also the name of one of the continents and one of the kingdoms on that continent, which again is fucked up. It's like if England was called Earth. That's weird. It's like if we all agreed that our planet, it's like if all, or conversely, equally as weird, it's like if we all agreed our planet was called England. And also there was a country called England, and on that country there was the English kingdom. That'd be weird. So, which is all to say. Some people crashed on that planet, and people were like, "That sounds dumb and not really like a Warcraft thing." That it's like a planet now. They crashed on the planet, like in a spaceship, and they're like, "It's not like somebody fucking shooting around. It is some sort of like interdimensional portal thing." And then like they said that, but like the actual game zone they had crafted had like a big, crystal sort of looking fantasy magic ship, but was like also clearly a crash site where it had flown into the ground and crashed because they've been flying in space between planets, which is weird. To think about fantasy worlds existing in space. Don't do it. Don't do it. But think about what it means that plane of existence functions in that way, right? And to what extent, this is all to say, to what extent are the seasonal patterns in the Game of Thrones universe reflective of the crisis-driven nature of capitalism. That, as opposed to our natural world, which has, in temperate areas, a predictable roughly 3-month season of hot, harvest, cold, warm. And then other parts of the planet have, 6 months of wet and 6 months of dry, or 9 months of dry and 3 months of very wet. Oh, that's dense bread, man. It's dense bread. Woo! Ugh. Whatever the seasons may or may not be. So I don't really know because I'm not that bright. But whatever they are, they're generally predictable. And there are good times for the people who live in those climates to prepare and store enough material resources, which is to say generally like food, burnable wood, tools, that are easier, I imagine, to gather the parts for and spend the time shaping and assembling in bountiful seasons than it is to do in the frigid, deathly cold of winter. But part of the cycle of life is knowing, when to sow and when to reap. That's not a mystery, right? But capitalism doesn't work like that. It's not predictable. Even the people who are in positions to predict it, and honestly probably are predicting it pretty accurately, due in no small part to the fact that they're like driving it and controlling it. They're just not sharing with us that they, have arranged things such that there will be a recession fairly soon, or that we're looking at a full-scale depression. That there is not going to be any global market that meaningfully exists in the next 3 months. And they've made the preparations they needed to make for that eventuality. I just didn't bother to mention to us that was happening. My family is rich, so I can do whatever I want. I mean, that's the promise, right? That's supposedly how it's supposed to work. I don't think we can blame Phil for believing that and trying to do, again, I need to stress, one of the best possible things with his privilege that he could have done. He took a philosophy degree, bachelor's, master's, doctorate, and then started doing unpaid work in his field, producing resources and literature for people who otherwise couldn't access that sort of knowledge or information. But he started doing open source higher education. You know, he took what his parents had been happy to pay out the schnoz for when the going was good, and used it to try his best to give back to the community. I really struggle with condemning him for that. I really struggle with saying he should have anticipated ruinous collapses of the financial system, or even his family's private financial status. He should have been looking forward to those things as inevitabilities. He should have predicted them as one predicts winter. Should he? Is that on us? You know, to look at the promises of our financial system and know that they're all lies all the time? This guy came the closest that I can point to off the top of my head. I'm sure there are others, but he's, one of the people that one could point to as performing the trickle down that we've always been promised of. Make it easier for wealthy people to be wealthy, and they will busy themselves creating industry, is the promise, right? Of Reaganomics, of austerity policies going back decades. Now, yes, it's a lie. Yes, that is a lie, because 99.9% of people don't do that. Simply put, they just simply don't. They are wealthy. Austerity makes it easier for them to remain wealthy. The tax breaks that they're given under the notion that the government will not need that tax money if it simply allows the private institutions to do that work of making the country function for them. So the government can spend less. The government can collect less. And then the people it would have collected from can have more to continue doing the work that got them there in the first place. Therefore, bringing everything up. Complete fabrication, which we've watched fail. We've watched corporations say, thanks for the tax break. Time to lay off all my workers, move the plant to India. And now you guys can be retail workers if you want. You can work at the Amazon fulfillment plant. Don't you dare utter the word union, or we'll come for you and your family. But Phil, and maybe I'm romanticizing the guy a bit at this point, Phil seemed to be doing that. Phil's family was wealthy, and they said, what do we do with this wealth? Let's make our son, let's give him the opportunity to pursue whatever he wants. And he said, philosophy. And they said, yep, okay. And he pursued philosophy to its full extent, basically, the way its full sort of like institutionalized extent. Doctor of philosophy. And then turned around and started using that work, that investment to create accessible public, functionally, works to share that with as many people as cared to share in it. So the one time this promise, which is usually a lie, the one time it's true, we all kind of spit on the guy. We all can't find it in ourselves to be sympathetic that just because he believed the lie, but like from the other side, that he's some sort of fucking jackass. You know, because usually the people who believe the lie are the workers that the owners are supposed to use their tax breaks to create more jobs for, and then they fucking don't. And then these people are like, you know, the disabused. They're, you know, the masses. They're the proletariat. They're victims of the system. All true. But what if somebody up here believes they're supposed to trickle down, but they don't just trickle down in, you know, a way that only a giant corporation can, of creating hundreds or thousands of new jobs for people to have, but trickles down in the way an individual can, which is offering their hard-earned and expensive expertise in a niche field for free back out into the world. That guy's a fucking jackass. Come on, buddy. Also, he says Sarah Ann continues. Also, he says he's devoted himself to being physically attractive to her. Has she asked for this, or is he just projecting what he would want or expect? Yes. Has she asked for this, or is he just projecting what he would want or expect? Yes. It's one of those things, you know? It's like, my bread. Would you like me to put salt in the dough, or would you prefer an unseasoned wheat loaf? No, I'd like bread, please, not just an unseasoned wheat loaf. Okay, salt going in. When you eat it, do you want to eat it dry, or do you want me to spread some butter? And this is Vegemite. Vegemite's delicious. Fuck you. Or would you want it dry? Or do you want to have some butter on it? I know most of you don't want Vegemite. Yeah, actually, yeah. Bread with butter sounds good. I don't want just dry, unsalted, baked wheat and water. I don't want hardtack. Even hardtack has salt in it. Shit. You know, like, it's cool. Sorry, Sarah. Sarah Empathy. It's a cool handle. You seem like you're trying your best. But it's all well and good to put like the rainbow flag and then a red heart and a purple heart and a blue heart and a little lizard in your in your Twitter name. But just because you've done all that hard work doesn't mean that you can just pretend that we all live in a world where our partners don't want us to be physically attractive, or that we don't want to be physically attractive for our partners, or that we wouldn't want a physically attractive partner and can safely presume that our partner would want a physically attractive partner. Like, it's the same exercise I do here but I don't know, done on like a social performative sort of way of dismantling everything down to its essential asks. You know, has anybody explicitly said that? Has anybody really like addressed the fact that this is how it works, but not doing the operation I afford myself the time to of building stuff back up and saying like, yes, indeed, yes, these are absolutely. You know, has anybody asked you to be physically attractive? Yes, the entire superstructure of our current society has, in fact, strongly urged me to be physically attractive if I want to attract. It's in the name. If I want to attract and keep a romantic sexual partner. So much so that she didn't need to ask. It would be very nice of her and a loving and polite gesture to say that stuff doesn't matter to me. Cool. You know? But but working. Back into it. Jamila Eshe Glapion at Buddha Kai responds to Sarah saying, yeah, like reverse trophy wife syndrome. Shruggy emoji. Meanwhile, if he made $1 million a year and she made nothing, sounds like role reversal doesn't work for dude. And he doesn't want to end up Mr. Mom, even though it's proud hard work too. Hand pop face. Again, you know, this whole idea that like, what is this guy's problem? Why can't he just exist in a fucking vacuum? You know, how dare he be insecure about that sort of stuff? The Demon Clown at the Demon Clown, Jesus fucking Christ, Hobson says there shouldn't be, but there's still a huge stigma / pressure on men not being the provider. The sad part is that his wife likely doesn't care, but he's not communicating his feelings about to her and is living in constant fear that she's gonna want to trade up someday. And then Sarah hops in. Not communicating is definitely a big chunk of what's happening here. The problem is he doesn't think it's acceptable for him to be vulnerable in a relationship. but he's not going to be able to deal with his anxieties without getting real vulnerable about them. I think that's demonstrably not true. So it's really, really cool. I think it's really, really cool that, we can, and one can say I'm doing the same thing here too. I don't think so, because I feel like I've given this a lot of consideration, and I think my specific sort of condensation of the topic goes beyond like just an archetypal assumption about this guy being a fucking prick and putting him in a box that I keep in my room labeled "pricks live in this box" and pushing him into that box, which seems like what's happening here. Because in terms of our future, we talked about it before. Recently, my insecurity stopped me from imagining it. She owns everything. She tried to share ownerships, but I refused. And he says, in the Reddit thing, like that he's going to talk to more like, but someone applies, and all these the bros in the Reddit one are just amazing. Like, find a better job. Imagine you were dating someone with less of a humongous job. Imagine the situation were completely different. Would your response be completely different? Imagine your grandma if she had bikes. Damn it, I fucked it up. Imagine your grandma if she had wheels. Would she be a bike? So imagine you're dating somebody with a collective income. What the fuck? Imagine you're living with somebody. Imagine it was a completely different situation, says somebody. Would you be doing anything different if the situation were completely not the situation that you're in? Amazing advice from a genius. And Phil says, in that completely fictional situation, which is not at all the situation that I'm in, I would go to work probably. I'm editorializing. I'm adding all those things that illustrate how this is fucking dumb, stupid, and useless. I only chose so because the monetary value of my labor seemed infinitely small when compared to her salary. Right. She's coming home with a bucket, and you're coming home with a ladle, and you're pouring your ladle into the bucket, and she says, "Thanks, sweetie." Perhaps I could make $25K. Wow, so much money after a few years. If I chose to do something a bit unethical, such as writing essays for college applicants, like if I just straight up participated in monetized cheating, then I could probably make enough money that it would kind of look like the amount of money my wife makes, which I think kind of says the quiet part out loud about how people become 28-year-old millionaires in the first place, right? Like, maybe. I will not enjoy it. And my income probably still won't make a difference to our collective wealth. I will talk to her. And level 5 Image, who we remember from yesterday as being a massive prick who's on the fucking hunt. So basically, you went from living off mom and dad to living off girlfriend? Bro. And then Fu Banana's like, wait. Are you saying you could make 2,500K a year after a few years writing college essays? Is this a thing? He like, I smell a hustle. I smell an opportunity to fucking rip people off. Oh man, I could get paid to help people cheat? That's a thing? This thread's the best, man. Just people being like, so wait, so you're not making money because of something called ethics? What are those? Wait, it doesn't matter. Get rid of them. So this whole like, I know this guy. He's definitely not communicating enough about his wife. He's definitely living in fear that she's going to want to trade up someday. No, he doesn't say that. No, he doesn't say that. And actually, if you follow up and basically any of his other comments, he talks about how they have had conversations about this. About how his rejections of the easy solutions, like sign his name on the paper too. I'll admit, maybe a bit foolish, maybe, but like motivated by dude's ethical convictions. Crazy. Probably, if I were to indulge in my own, as if I haven't already been doing it, romanticization of this guy. The reasons behind his refusing to co-sign or share ownership with a bunch of her stuff that she's bought with her money, it probably comes from the same sort of ethical core that makes him the type of dude to whom a loved one would say, I would rather you not work for money and do the work you're doing now, because there's like an important ethical core to it. Like you have actual principles and a real conviction, and you follow that up, and you're not out here hustling. You're not out here trying to make every spare dollar you possibly can scrape up. You're not helping people cheat for a living. Work again. Like, people just look at relationships and then say shit like, oh, not communicating is definitely a big chunk of what's happening here. As if that, because that's just a standard thing to say. And the thing is that they're not completely wrong. They're not completely wrong, but not for the reasons they think. Not because, like, the people who run into these sorts of problems don't communicate as much as they should. But our society is fundamentally built to prevent communication. Like, we're alienated. We're atomized. So simply pointing that out, it's like an entire colony of people with club foot. And they hold sprints. They hold sprinting contests. And whenever someone's slow, someone points out, well, his club foot probably has something to do with it. He's probably not addressing that, completely. Unlike the rest of us who also have club feet and, our lives are perfect because we somehow mastered that. Ridiculous crap. Ridiculous crap. Now here's maybe something. Here's the big one. Okay. I think I might have found a comrade. T.O. Scruggly at Critter is Gray says, I'll give the guy credit. It doesn't sound like he resents her for making more than him or thinks that because he's a man he needs to be the breadwinner. Just sounds genuinely insecure about the stability of his future and whether GF still finds him attractive. Yeah, that's probably the closest anyone's got to it without, like, projecting on a bunch of other weird personal failings this guy has and not just recognizing that he's responding correctly to the propaganda the world blasts into our heads 24/7, right? Like, the world's designed to make us. I slept in this shirt. I didn't even change. I'm a complete globby slob, man. I just realized that. Hilarious. He is responding correctly to the precise propaganda that's projected into our brains 24/7 by capitalist consumerism. Right? You are insufficient. Your loved ones love you because of your choice of soap, because of the car you drive, because of how dang good you are at picking out the most dangerous, excellent color. What sort of fucking maniac would you have to be receiving signals constantly about insecurity and not have some insecurity? But then T.O. Scruggly says, dude needs therapy. Uh-oh! Femme, lesbian, Austin Powers at Eternal Slime says, no, I think he just needs to share his insecurity with her and open a dialogue about their long term. Leave therapists alone to deal with other people's more complicated problems, Lamau. Ellie at Ellie Pad hops in. Absolutely the wrong mindset. Therapists regularly say anyone and everyone can benefit from therapy. This is the exact rhetoric that keeps people who are hurting from getting the help they need because they don't believe they deserve it. Austin Powers jumps back in. Therapists say that because they make money from giving people therapy. And Ellie plays the fool. And what's your point? Austin Powers. I don't think everybody needs therapy. I say that as someone who has been in and out of therapy about half my life. I don't believe therapists are correct when they say that. They are biased sources on the topic. That's my point. Ellie, your mindset. that you have something, that your mindset that you have to need something for it to be okay to use it is really weird and uncomfortable. Let people pursue wellness in peace. Austin Powers, have you forgotten that the context for this is that somebody was advising someone else to get therapy in an advice subreddit? I'm offering my 2 cents just like everybody else. Ellie, yeah, and their dumb sense. Lamau. Ellie is a drone, and Austin Powers rocks. Congratulations on having the dialogue that I needed to have. You know, like people used to write these dialogues. They used to be the sort of main form of philosophical, theoretical writing before it turned into the essay. Information I've cribbed wholeheartedly from Dawn of Everything. And now I pretend like I know it just as someone told it to me. Just everything about this. And this comes up so much. Somebody hops in, Madeline. I will never understand the tying of masculinity to money. Simply never. I think that's a dumb thing to say. I think that's dumb. I think that's dumb. Why the fuck would tying one construction of power to another construction of power not make sense? I will never understand the tying of masculinity to money. I will never understand why not permitting women to own property has anything to do with either men or the property that they have. Simply never. I refuse to allow this extremely obvious thing to make sense to me. I will allow my rejection of this on purely theoretical, self-indulgent, principled grounds to cloud my ability to have meaningful conversations on the topic, because I refuse to acknowledge that it makes perfect sense. I don't get why laws, systems of rules that give a man's wealth when he dies to his brother before his wife, why that has anything to do with masculinity or gender. I will never understand why the man being the provider and therefore needing to compete with other men has anything to do with capitalism existing. What? Like, ridiculous. I was hoping this would I was hoping this rolls into therapy, because it seems like the sort of thing that would. Whitney Wakanda Forever says, step 1, become a sexy, scholarly house husband. Step 2, profit. I don't see the problem is here. Well, the problem is that you're still thinking in terms of step 2, profit, because he's not privately profiting. What you mean is that, like, it should be step 2, be happy. Step 1, achieve a desirable life. Step 2, be happy. Step 2 is profit. Step 2 is monetize your happy life somehow. Turn it into income. This exactly, for somebody replies, maybe take up baking as a hobby. Dude has a hobby. Dude's hobby is his work creating accessible philosophical literature. Dude doesn't need like a way to kill time. Dude needs to exist in a society that allows him to exist. Doesn't simply say like, oh, that sounds nice. If I were to imagine a society that would allow that to be nice, then that would be good. If I didn't imagine it as either some sort of bizarre unicorn where once somebody had achieved it, they would never have to feel insecurity ever again and would be free of all of the ails of this world. They wouldn't be pressured exactly as you see on both sides of this thing to since you have a problem with it, there's something wrong with you. You get it? Like, you need therapy to resolve this thing about you where you can't just be happy. Despite the fact that, as we see in the Reddit side of things, The world loathes you for having this existence. And the side shouting at you that needs therapy loathes you also because it's a demonstration of your privilege. It's a demonstration of your toxic masculinity. It's all these terrible things about you that you would get into this situation is an evil of our financial system. The fact that you would feel uncomfortable with this situation is a demonstration of how flawed and corrupt you are as a person. The fact that you would imagine that people would have a problem with it. And then the people who have a problem with it screaming at you that for you to allow yourself to be in that situation is an act of cowardice and laziness. And people are like, just kick back and enjoy it, man. What is even the problem? The problem is that there's no way out. The problem is that the only way out for this guy doesn't actually exist. Therapy. Dude needs therapy. No, I think he just needs to share his insecurity with her and open a dialogue about their long term. Leave therapists alone to deal with other people's more complicated problems. Like, you realize, so accessibility. This is a topic that runs throughout Phil's dilemma, that he would rather, it seems, he finds a moral objection to making his work inaccessible. He would rather his work be not profitable for him personally, so long as that made it accessible for the people who need it. Therapists are they workers? I don't know. Therapists are people, and they live days that are 24 hours long, just like the rest of us. And there are people with problems. There are people with unresolved trauma. There are people with psychoses. There are people with genuine mental health problems that could likely be helped by talk therapy. There are people whose psyches are so fragile, who are so temperamental, that really the only person who should be tinkering around in their noggin is somebody with training, is somebody given a toolkit to assist them in doing so. And then there are people who are just kind of sad because capitalism makes them sad on purpose. This guy is not gesturing towards PTSD from a former abusive relationship. This guy is not gesturing towards auditory and visual hallucinations of demons taking his girlfriend away, or his girlfriend turning into a witch and putting him in a cauldron. This guy is not describing being so heart-crushingly depressed that he does nothing, and his wife, confusing pity for love, allows him to just keep on existing as a husk. But he knows deep down inside she couldn't possibly truly love something as abominable as he. He's just talking about the fact that he's aware that when he explains his situation and his reservations about it to people, normal reservations, completely sensible reservations, like, by the way, I don't really have my own job. How dare you not have a job? By the way, my girlfriend is like a millionaire. I don't like women having money. By the way, my parents paid for me to get a bachelor's and a master's and a doctorate in philosophy. Oh, parents, wealthy parents paved your way through life. Oh, a degree in philosophy. Oh, why'd you waste it? You're never gonna get a job doing philosophy. Yeah, and I don't know. I feel kind of weird about that. I hate women. I don't want to toxic masculinity. Pussy piece of shit. Fucking parasite. I'm finding out that my little tiny moment of unproductive and unmonetizable happiness will not be happening. So I'm now I'm sad. Maybe I should go to therapy. Well, no, I should just have more than one, proverbial basket of eggs of friends. I should just have a real community, which is what our friend Dr. Phil needs. Not therapy. He doesn't need to waste a professional's fucking time who could be helping somebody who no one else can help, rather than merely fucking patching up, performing triage and first aid on the wounds inflicted on the body politic under capitalism. Therapists regularly say that anyone and everyone can benefit from therapy. Yeah, no shit. Anyone or everyone. The fact that everyone could use therapy is part of the problem. That's bad. That's an artificially inflated demand, to put it in, purely economic terms. The fact that literally everyone is the potential consumer base for this service, and that you, as the people who understand it, as professionals, are really the only qualified people to say whether or not it works. And we say it does work. And if it doesn't work for a few people, then I guess the problem's with those people. Dude is capitalism played out in microcosm. The reason he's unhappy isn't that he doesn't have a job, isn't that he doesn't contribute, isn't that the people immediately around him see him as worthless. Because the people immediately around him see enough worth in what he does that they are happy to offer to support him. The problem is that is all fleeting and ephemeral and immaterial, because it's based off of mainly a relationship. It's based off of entirely the wealth of other individuals and not the wealth of a community. It is based off of private goodwill and not out of public security. Because that's how we have enshrined concepts of wealth. That's how we've enshrined concepts of people as individual actors within the market bumping into each other, having transactions, be they literal monetary transactions or, relationships, which have been psychically transmogrified into their own sorts of transactions by capitalism itself. If we take the $1 million a year that just Phil's girlfriend makes, and we kind of spread that around into their immediate community, and instead of saying this is a community with one millionaire in it, we say this is the community with a wealth of $1 million. Who here would say that that sounds less healthy? Who here would say that that sounds like a worse community? And this is Phil's real problem. And this is society's real problem. That it's all easy come, easy go. It's all locked up in private holdings, which we're told, right? The right thing to do with these things is to hoard them. Like we've watched, the executives in corporations I gestured to earlier. Austerity-driven policy gives them tax breaks, planning, or just perhaps, fibbing to the public, they'll trickle down. And they don't. They keep it all for themselves. And they share it with people immediately in their vicinity. Their children are now wealthy. Their partners are now wealthy. Are their communities wealthy? Insofar as they create communities solely of individually wealthy people. They congregate together. But they don't pool their resources. I mean, they do insofar as they throw opulent parties and they, share in celebrations of their collective wealth as expressed through invitation lists, exclusivity and whatnot. But no, should one come upon hard times, then, that's just blood in the water as far as these fucking sharks are concerned. That's our entire system. That's the entirety of what America has to deal with. A nation that has no communities in it, entirely at the mercy of wealthy girlfriends who could bail at any moment. And the solution is not necessarily to marry the girlfriend. Because just simply taking control over somebody else, enshrining in some sort of legal agreement that they have to share with you. I don't think that's the way forward. But if there were as more of a social standard, an acceptance that that wealth is for sharing, if losing wealth, if losing access to a luxurious amount of wealth through association, was it tantamount to destitution too? Perhaps it'd be easier to acknowledge, I'm at a point in my life when I've been lucky enough to be afforded a great deal of luxury. I can stand by my ethics and do the work that I want to do and share with the world. Because right now I have a community around me that values that work enough to support me in doing it. I have a community that affirms me in doing that work. So much so that I can shut out voices that are not part of my community. Voices that speak out of hatred and fear. Voices that speak out of the zealous rage that can really only be expressed by somebody who is so committed to something they find so repulsive and terrifying that they have to believe it, because believing that alternatives exist would ultimately be far too painful to reckon with. As I've said before, people who've spent their entire lives feeling like they've had to live cruelly don't want to be told that kindness was an option the whole time. They can't believe that because it means that they were cruel for no reason. It means that they were cruel because it was easier than imagining what it would be like to be kind. And that's Phil's problem. And that's the problem that therapy would portend to solve. Because what's a therapist? A therapist is somebody who listens intensely, who is willing to push back against your more hateful and destructive ideas about yourself or the world. But it's also somebody you pay to do those things. It's somebody who, like Phil, has gone through a lot of training to be able to do that, we believe, better than the average person. And therefore deserves to be compensated monetarily for that. God forbid they just simply exist within a wealthy community and are afforded the opportunity to do the good work that they see fit. God forbid they have enough and then use the time, but they don't need to spend getting more to help other people simply recognize happiness when it crosses their path. One of the most moving little bits of trivia of historicism in Dawn of Everything is the fact that when the Jacobins encountered the Huron-Wendat and the Mi'kmaq in what is now Atlantic Canada and New England, when the French first started arriving in what we would now call the New World, they were sent to preach and educate. They were sent as shepherds of men. They were sent to teach the gospel. They were trained in a legacy of rhetoric and argumentation that went all the way back to Athens. And when they encountered the Wendat, they found in most of their people their match rhetorically, because that was participation in the public forum, participation in the tribe for the Native Americans, simply the Americans, as the Davids call them, which is, fantastic. Part of daily life was gathering around and having well thought through conversations about what people should do with their time, about their day, about their emotions. They encountered people, the Jesuits encountered people against whom they could not win an argument. They encountered people, and this I don't have really a quote or a citation for this. It's just kind of something they toss in there. So, but apparently, it's just true enough for them to feel safe in saying. Generals on genocidal campaigns against these Native Americans were liable to be reduced to tears when put in conversation with them. Because that was a part of being in a community, of being able to have a thoughtful and attentive conversation about topics that mattered. Not just about stuff and things and TV shows we've watched, but about how people were feeling, about what people believed. Hand in hand with this is the idea, that really upset the Jesuits and I guess all of the colonials really, was that in these American nations, the role of chief wasn't enshrined in hierarchical law, which is to say that a chief couldn't technically issue orders that had to be followed. Individual people were responsible unto themselves for either agreeing to orders or not. And a person became a leader of these people or a chief among them by being eloquent and articulate and convincing enough to get people on their side, more or less without fail. They were leaders not by virtue of their birth or some sort of emblem pinned to their chest. They were leaders by virtue of the fact that when they explained where they wanted to lead, people wanted to follow. And this enraged the French. This made them so mad. Because the Americans were able to say to them, you guys live in fear of your captains, of your bosses. You live your whole lives unhappy because you're scared of the next guy up the ladder. And if he tells you to do something stupid that you don't want to do, you have to do it. You don't have to do it. We don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. And the French would be like, no, you do have to do it. And what this story here illustrates for me is that it's a myth that we can't have both. You know? It's a myth that you can't have your own life and also be available for your community and your friends. That humans are really good at learning things. Humans drive cars subconsciously. Human beings take the task of piloting a ton of speeding metal, dodging past other tons of speeding metal, powered by bombs. Powered by a bomb that's constantly on fire. And we do it without paying that much attention to it. People learn how to speak other languages so much that we invented new languages to learn. Like ancient languages, which are lost or shouldn't be written, but not necessarily spoken, to constructed fictional languages like Esperanto, which, you know, look towards a future of unification and mutual comprehension, to languages that don't even serve like the purposes of speech, like logic, like pure logic and coding. People learn how to code. People learn how to write, gibberish, and have it spew out a computer program. I'm talking to you via code. Aliens, do you know what code is? And somebody built that, and that's amazing, of course. But to say the person who was capable of learning the code that built this wouldn't be capable of just understanding when their friend was feeling insecure and listening to them? It's not true. And it's easy for fucking strangers on the internet to pipe up, and having never read or looked at any of your self-published philosophy literature, you know, that you're a bum, that you are, look at your earning potential over here, look at your actual net income over here, wasted potential, wasted life. That's easy for people who don't know you to do. And it's easy to turn to that sort of ephemeral hoi polloi, hoping that there'll be a reasonable voice in the crowd, which I think Phil does find. He finds some people who honestly do engage with, like, what's your actual problem here? Is it the money thing? Is it the job thing? Is it the insecurity thing? And, you know, he says some answers which people take for better or for worse, but he does a few times that, at least once, I've been able to see, thank people for giving what appears to be sincere and, you know, helpful feedback, if not advice, maybe even some advice. But it's mixed in with so many horrible people just assuming that he's doing it all wrong. He's not talking to his partner. He's insecure because he's sexist. He's privileged and lazy rich boy because he doesn't currently have a job that pays money. We can't allow ourselves to believe that online communities are communities, because they're not. they're not the same as the people who live around you, who eat the food that grows in the dirt that takes your boots. We can't allow strangers screaming their own nightmarish projections on the internet to stand in for and substitute for what a real community is. And we can't allow the system to say, you have to specialize. You have to specialize so much that if you learn how to code, you can't also imaginably have learned the tips and tricks and rhetoric and inner peace needed to deal with just people's regular problems. Real mental health, real psychosis, real trauma. Absolutely. Absolutely. A mental health professional is a real occupation. Absolutely. People have problems that your average Joe should probably not be rooting their fucking nose around in. But we need to be realistic about how many of us have that problem. About how many of us are actually so disturbed that we need professional help versus how many of us are just atomized, completely alienated from one another by capitalism, made as Matt Christman from Chapo, the Mad Prophet himself, says, quoting Marx in referring to the French peasants who elected Napoleon III, the third, to be president, and then eventually, creating the Third Empire. As Marx called them a bag of potatoes, Matt refers to the American population as a sleeve of Pringles. We can't allow ourselves to accept that. We can't allow ourselves to buy that, and we need to recognize when that's what's being sold. And that's what an attitude of therapy, like anyone and everyone should benefit from therapy. Oh, you have to need something for it to be okay to use it is really weird and uncomfortable. Why take something you don't need when the trade-off is somebody who needs it not getting it? Why allow the illusion that it's okay to take something you don't need? Why is it okay to allow somebody to step in and say, it doesn't have to be a matter of someone who needs it not get it. We'll just make it so that even more people are offering it. And we'll have entire swaths of the mental health profession be full of people who are not qualified to deal with people who actually need it. People who do not specialize in trauma and abuse and real mental health. People who specialize specifically in just the psychic first aid and triage of patching up people wounded by capitalism. Simply people like Phil saying, I'm having trouble accepting that I have a good thing going here because of reservations that were taught to me when I was a kid, things that I was indoctrinated to believe, and by people screaming it at me right now, right this very moment. It makes it difficult for me to accept that this is an okay way to be. We don't need to send Phil to therapy so that he can privately feel slightly more better. We need to fix our entire communities such that Phil never needed to feel like he had to ask those questions in the first place. And is that a loftier goal? Sure. But I mean, it's surgery where gauze would do. You know, if someone comes to you with a broken leg, resetting the bone manually, putting some gauze on it, telling them to stay off it as best they can, is better than nothing, maybe. But like, they need to have surgery and they need to put it in a cast. Will that be inconvenient? Will that take longer than simply putting a Band-Aid over it? Yes, but you know, we are a society made up of people who have been broken and allowed to heal wrong. And that sucks. And we need to start taking every opportunity we can to see those opportunities to start doing the right thing. If we can conceptualize what the world would look like if we did the right thing, it would be easier to do the right thing in small ways rather than continue to do the wrong thing, rather than continue to make doing the wrong thing a little less hurtful, a little less soul killing. Because even if it's a little less soul killing, it's still killing your soul. I danced around the point a few times. I think it's a bit more scatterbrained than maybe I would have liked, but I feel like I did end up saying most of what I wanted to say about Phil. Might come back to it. It seems like fertile ground, but I'm happy I gave this topic this much time of my life to really think about and talk about. I hope a human maybe sees this sometime. I feel good about this one. Peace.